They are the dictionary equivalent of the word money, Jews. Their only success, acknowledged by everyone, is commerce. The richest families in the world, the advanced financial network, somehow extends to the Jews. So do you know how this happens? I'm here with a video that smells like money. You can be amazed as you watch how they turn the tragedies they went through into mind-blowing wealth. The first reason why Jews are the masters of the money world is their religious beliefs. How does? As a result of the defeats they suffered in the Jewish-Roman wars between 70 and 136 AD, a significant Jewish population was exiled to various regions of the Roman Empire or taken as slaves. Over time, the establishment of new states in Europe and Christianity becoming the dominant religion marked the beginning of bad days for the Jews. According to the Bible, Jesus was subjected to many persecutions by the Jews and was even crucified to death under the pressure of the Jews. This situation caused the Christian population to become hostile to the Jews and to exclude them from the city that marginalized them. So much so that even in the years before the Middle Ages, Jews in Europe were strictly prohibited from owning land, studying, doing military service, and serving in royal positions. In many places, they were even prohibited from entering city centers. In such an environment of exclusion, there were only a few professions that Jews could do: handicrafts and usury. Usury was forbidden in Christianity, but usury, that is, usury towards non-Jews, was allowed among Jews. It is written in an old history book that if you lend money, food, or anything else that earns interest to your brother, you will not receive interest from him. You can get interest from a stranger, but you will not get it from your brother. Do this so that your God will reward you for everything you do in the land you go to acquire property. As the ancestor of banking, usury, which is called loans given in exchange for high interest, became one of the most basic professions in the Jewish ghettos and enabled some Jews to become rich. In fact, the Ottoman Empire and even Turkey will have their share of these activities of the famous Jewish Rothschild family, who are thought to have the greatest wealth in the modern world. Now let's go back again. Yes, it was not the only way out for the Jews of the Middle Ages, as they became richer by lending money at high interest. Because the rich Europeans to whom the Jews lent money in the Middle Ages can provoke the people and raid the Jewish neighborhoods at any time, and the second element that plunders their wealth appears before us. In other words, kinship ties. Jews were protecting themselves through their relatives living in safer countries and cities, instead of keeping their wealth in their hands after it was plundered. That's why they didn't invest in real estate for centuries. Their philosophy was, be prepared to escape, invest in the light and the burden, the heavy in price. With this motto, they converted their earnings into more valuable metals, such as gold, instead of real estate. Mines were valuable all over the world, and even if they were exiled, they did not lose their wealth. Moreover, since they are few in number and excluded throughout Europe, it is of great importance that they hold on tightly to each other. Because they cannot perform the professions that are allowed to Christians, they can only do these jobs with each other. Take a look around you and you will surely see people who are jealous of each other because of the money they earn, even in friendly environments. Maybe you have lived. But for a Jew, the wealth of his friends and relatives is as important as his own wealth, because it is impossible for them to survive otherwise, and money attracts money. For this reason, while the Jews first opened job opportunities for their neighbors, they also used their relatives living in other countries to enrich them. Although the Jewish dynasties were fragmented and exiled to different countries, their obligation to marry only Jews, due to their religious beliefs and their small number, allowed them to continue their ties without breaking, and thus to embrace each other when they were in trouble. These kinship relations of Jews form the basis of today's large family companies. In the video, we stated that Jews are prohibited from doing business and receiving education in the countries they live in. For this reason, families in better financial situations sent their children to their relatives in other countries for a part of their lives, enabling them to learn different jobs and see the world more broadly. Today's large family companies likewise force their children to see the system more objectively by having them work in different companies for up to 5 years after university, instead of employing them on their own. A famous Jewish saying summarizes this educational process very well. In fact, if you don't teach your children how to earn money, they will learn to steal. Friends, do you think it is in vain that not only countless names such as Rosie Einstein, but also Christoph Columbus, who discovered America, were Jewish? Beware of the trading trap you are currently facing. Let's compare two coffee companies. One produces great coffees and pleases your palate. The other one printed on posters that a portion of the profits from every coffee you buy will go to poor children in Africa or provide scholarships to young people deprived of education. Which coffee company would you choose? Another Jewish philosophy that forms one of the basic logics of today's big companies is the fact that if you earn $10, family members try not to be media and stay away from ostentation. Maybe it caught your attention. You don't even know most of them. This is a Jewish contribution to today's world of commerce. Because a Jew who lives ostentatiously in Europe will attract attention and will definitely incur someone's wrath. To protect themselves from these possibilities, wealthy Jews would dress inconspicuously and prevent themselves from ostentation and ostentation. One of the definitions of comfort is having someone to meet you when you need it. Therefore, if you can put aside half of how much you earn, only then you are successful. And there is a detail here. This means having to think about what you do, not for a lifetime, but for eternity. According to the Jew, being good at something takes a long time that cannot fit into a single person's lifetime. Ultimately, you can sink or rise in any business, but permanence lasts for centuries. Therefore, if you do not teach the subtleties of the profession, you have learned to the next generation, that is, your children, and enable them to continue working in this field, then you have failed. When you listen to the story of most Jewish companies in Turkey or anywhere in the world, you hear that they started as a small shop in the back streets and later became institutionalized. This is true, because the Jewish understanding of commerce says this: are you an ordinary carpenter? Then do your job with love. Do not praise bad goods. Those who need will also buy the bad ones. If you say that your bad goods are bad, you will not need to explain that your other goods are good. Do not speak negatively about anyone you do business with. Keep your covenant. If you listen to these words, you will sell the most seats in your neighborhood. If your children listen to you, they will be the ones selling the most seats in your city. If your grandchildren listen, no one can sell seats except you. Now let's explain this with an example from our own life. Let's say you are a construction worker and you want your children to study. This is the wrong approach according to Jewish logic. During the construction phase of a tourist port, which I will not name, local businessmen entered a tender to operate this port and put forward the highest price. However, at that time, a mysterious Jewish businessman appeared and briefly warned that if I did not take over the management of this port, not a single tourist would come here. Indeed, international tourism agencies began to cancel cruises, and the port management was given to the Jewish family. This is called holding each other. Jewish businessmen seek the advice of their mentors when they are in trouble. A mentor from outside the company, who is experienced in trade and will guide you without adding emotions as he looks at the events from the outside, will always give a more accurate opinion than those in the business. You will hear and see people on the street who lent money to their friends but could not get it, or who became guarantors for their loans but were subject to large payments. But Jews never make verbal agreements. Trust and trade are completely different. One of the cleverest moves of the Jews is to create a need before selling. Imagine you have a discovery and a tractor factory. If you distribute these tractors to large farmers free of charge, after a while users will need spare parts and repairs. This means that you open new factories in that region and start selling products. Also, the best advertising is spoken on the street. Therefore, every farmer you give a free tractor to actually causes other farmers to buy tractors from you. Because such is human nature. Everyone wants someone else to taste a dish they love. Be sure to ask yourself a question. Is it or isn't it? Now you may say, not every Jew is rich. Of course not. Different classes are needed for societies to survive. Yes, there are poor Jews too. There are also Jews who failed in their endeavors. However, our point of attention here is that although Jews constitute 2 per thousand of the world's population, they have achieved commercial success at 90 to 100 times their population capacity. It is true that we have many economic lessons to learn from the Jews, and obviously they will continue to be one of the most influential societies in the world years later.